And it's welcome to everybody tonight. This is Clyde here from Pixel Pro Displays. Welcome to our June webinar. This is going to be on the topic is going to be on the moving head series. That's well, I turned out the lights. You can't see them behind me, but there's a couple little ones right there. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you how you can get them connected to into xLights. I'm doing things a little bit differently than I normally would. I'm not using a Falcon today. My F48 is having issues using a specific protocol that will not. I don't know. It just won't connect. And so we're going to use something somewhat older technology, but does the same thing what the Falcon's going to do. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk through a little bit about the moving heads. We're going to talk about kind of setting up a model. I'm not going to walk through all of the processes, but I'm going to point out the most important ones that I learned whenever I did this process myself. So recently, we at PPD started doing what you would call moving head sequencing as an extra add-on pack for the Pro layout sequences, or to the original. They don't come with the sequences because not everybody uses moving heads. They're very specific. But one of the challenges that we've heard over and again is that moving head sequencing can be quite confusing, and it doesn't transfer well from one model of moving head to another. And so I have two different models. I have the Magical Light Show model behind me over my left shoulder, and I have behind me over to my right here a completely different model. These are two kind of mini DJ LEDs. This is an incandescent light or a halogen light. I'm not sure which. But the differences are, this is very professional. This is $70 from Amazon, eBay, and I got them a couple years ago, and I really never messed with them. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to show how if you have a model for them, or if you need to create a model, the important things that I learned whenever setting up these models. Now, this may not transpose to everything if you're trying to set up your model. There's a lot of different functionality that each of the models has, and learning and understanding and playing with things that as you go is part of being in the lighting community, the holiday lighting community, the hobby. It's if you don't practice or put your hands on something and start using it, you're never going to get any further with it. So after we started doing the moving head programming, I had the Magical Light Show moving head here, and I tested the conversion of the sequencing from our layout into that moving head, and the output was great. But then I started thinking, well, I want to be sure, I want to be 100% sure to see that, what if I build a model for these guys to see if it transposed well? And so that's what we're going to do tonight. Is I want to share with you what I've learned. And I've just been having a little bit of fun trying to get through all of this stuff that relates to kind of the 3D moving head. So in a sense, the hands-on approach for me has always worked. So I'm learning as I go in some aspects, and I'm also kind of picking my brain as far as the sequencing inside, and I'll probably touch on a little bit, but don't expect a lot of sequencing out of this tonight. But it's more about getting connected and kind of making them talk to each other. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the model. Whenever I received the Tom Bet George Magical Light Show's moving head, what I found was that the model was already set up. We brought the model in and put it into xLights, and all of the channels were already set up. All of the positioning and all that stuff was kind of ready for us. There were a couple little things that I did. I created some submodels to make it a little easier to sequence with. But other than that, it was done. Like, it was done. I didn't have to think about it. And all I had to do was I had to go in and I had to learn how to sequence them. And it can be confusing. And if you don't have one right in front of you as you're sequencing it, which this is what I did. I put it right here beside me. And as I was making changes on the screen and I was sequencing it, I could, output the lights and I could see it here. So, but I wanted to be sure that whatever result I got on here was exactly the same result as I got there. But not only that, we're using a different model even still from the Magical Light Show's moving heads. We're using the Dominar, what was the... It's not the Lempa. It's another version. It's what is it? The IP version, I think.
Yep.
And it's a little bit different than what I initially thought. So, yeah, that's what it is. Thank you, David. David Henry's here with us too. It's the Beam IP version. So it's a little bit earlier than what I had initially thought. So, kind of with all of that in mind, there's a couple things. There's a couple things that I want to kind of bring out in front. And let me share the screen here. And this is where it gets confusing because I have to move my screens around. And the people live can see me still, but in the pre-recorded screen capture, I have to move things around. So forgive me. There's going to be some of this. So whenever I purchased, and I'm holding up in front of the camera right now, whenever I purchased my little mini moving heads, it came with some, albeit not much, but it came with an operating manual, and it wasn't very detailed with how it works. It just said, here's the on button, here's a couple buttons, you can cycle through, figure it out on your own, here's what these functions do, and you have a couple different channel modes. You have a 13 or an 11 channel mode. I chose to go with the simplest thing, which was an 11 channel mode. And the 11 channel mode is on your screen now. You can see it. And basically, I'm going to highlight the things that are the absolute basic important things that are necessary. And it looks like I kind of made a boo-boo there. Red. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Oh, I did. I did make a boo-boo. There we go. Ah.
All you can see is the TSO Queen of the Winter Night.
Oh, that's for sure. Okay, so that's a good point. Good point. Like I said, this was going to be confusing until I got used to it. Let me switch screens now. This anytime I do something live, it's a little bit harder. There we go. Okay. So you can see that, I assume, yes?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Tom. So basically what xLights or what the manufacturer will do, they'll hand out this information, and they won't give you much other than the channel assignments. So the basic information that you're going to need whenever it comes to the channel mode is going to be your level. Now, in this case, level doesn't mean level like volume-wise. What level means is your tilt, or the way that the head moves up and down. So the level, actually this is reversed. Level means the left and right, meaning panning, which is turning simply left and right, clockwise or counterclockwise. So one of the things that, and every manufacturer is going to be different. They're going to label things differently. And it's going to be kind of important to understand that the most important ones that you need to know are the pan and the tilt. And if there is a shutter. And so pan was the first one that I had to figure out what it was. Now this is on these the smaller mini LEDs. Let me switch. I don't know if I can pull this over here without. No, it's all wrapped up. So I guess I'll just kind of walk through it. Level of fine tuning. I haven't found a use for that yet in any of my sequencing. But I'm sure it can be useful for some people. I really didn't even bother programming this in. The vertical is what I found to be the tilt. So I'm just going to fill this in as tilt. And then obviously the one below it would be fine tilt, which again I didn't find very useful. Now speed, do I know what speed is? No, I really don't know what speed is. I imagine that has something to do with how fast the head moves, and you can give it, you can allow it to speed up or slow down. I've found that everything that I ever want to do with any of the moving heads, I don't really need to set the speed to any other number than whatever the basic layout is going to be. The dimming is kind of counterintuitive. The dimming is actually on this model. What I learned is something that I would call a shutter, or kind of like the eyelid of the moving head. And in terms of what I already understand, and this is just for me, and if other people have a different understanding, by all means, this is just the way I see what a shutter does. The shutter in a camera is kind of the inside lens that whenever you open the shutter inside a camera, the shutter actually opens the aperture so that you can see out of the camera. So whenever you have a regular camera, you look at your camera here, until you open the shutter, it's not really doing any recording until that shutter opens. And so to me, what I think of is the shutter is your eyelid, and behind it is the eyeball, or let's say the LED. And when you open your eyelids, that's your shutter opening, and you're, instead of taking in the light, you're actually sending the light beam out. Now, the dimming would be what I consider this white dimming down here. And there's 3 colors for sure on these LED heads, and we can talk more about this later. I don't want to get too wrapped up in the explanation of all of these. But there is a red channel, a green channel, a blue channel, but there's also a white channel. And now typically I'm going to program with white whenever when we're talking about specifically doing moving head programming, because not all moving heads have the same functionality. So I'm going to stick with white, but there are functionalities that, and Scott Hansen hopefully will be in here tonight to kind of walk through his new addition that he just literally added this weekend. Over the weekend, he added a color wheel edition that that sounds amazing. I really was surprised that he brought this on, and I know a number of people are really excited about it too. Strobe, from what I understand, there's either a functionality that's in a number of them. I really never messed with the strobe function. Again, I'm only worried about the main things that I'm going to use this for. xLights can strobe the LED for me. I don't need to have it strobe it. It may do something different. But again, it didn't come with any instructions telling me what strobe does. Now, there's also a strobe on some of the other models that's useful. By all means, that your mileage varies between different models. So I'm labeling this as shutter. I'm going to regard these as the red, green, and blue channel, and I'm going to use white as my dimming channel. And dimming is what I would say is turning on the light and turning off the light. And when I think of dimming in xLights, I think of the on effect and using the on and either having a fade in or a fade out. So that's the way I see what dimming is. So dimming is actually turning the light on, whereas shutter is opening up the aperture to allow the light to come out or not to let it come out. With that in mind, I know that if I don't have, on Tom Bet George's model that I'm using, if I don't have his shutter set to 255, or if I don't have it open, then the light doesn't come out. So I experienced that before on this moving head. But on these ones here, I didn't realize that dimming, the dimming channel, I thought that was where the light was coming out, and it's not. So this had to be turned on. And again, this is all trial and error. I had to sit down and figure these out. So when you're dealing with moving heads, there's a lot of different variables depending on what it is, what model that you've picked up. I'll be honest, getting a bunch of different versions of models I don't think is very helpful. If you're going to buy one, pick one model and buy that and only use those. I mean, it depends. If you're going to invest into these, some of these get quite expensive. $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 can get, pretty pricey, and it's a huge investment to put into your show. So that's kind of where the channel modes come up. What I want to do now is I want to go in and show you in xLights a couple things here. So in the layout, you can see that I've created a couple models. And this is kind of set up exactly right behind me as you see it on your screen. So from left to right on the screen, you can see Mini LED 1, Moving Head Mini LED 2. And so 1 is on the left, and that would be, if you can see me and you can't see me, let me pin this. It won't let me pin it. That's okay. Not that I need to be in the shot here, but for the people watching on YouTube, this is mini number 1 here on the left. This is mini number 2 in the middle, and then to my right, my other left, is the large Magical Lights show moving head. And the reason I show you this is because whenever you see this going on, that's exactly what's going on behind me, and this is the order they are left to right. Now, that's not how they're hooked up channel-wise, so don't worry, don't let the channels confuse you. What I learned is that whenever I programmed these small moving heads, is that these are an 11-channel unit. So you can set it as a 13-channel. I only needed the 11-channel because there wasn't really much more functionality with the 13 that made sense with us in xLights. So I just left it as an 11-channel. And what I had to do to create this model, you can come up here to DMX and you can create a moving head 3D, which is I believe is exactly what I did. I just clicked and dragged one out, and then basically I went through and I started looking at the channel assignments that I needed to assign these to. So if I were to bring back this Excel spreadsheet here and kind of put them side by side, then what I could do is I could see physically what each model was, what each channel had available versus what I had to put into the settings. So with that being said, I set this as having this DMX head having 11 channels total. I went through and I set channels. Now there's some channels like the pan channel. Remember how I said this came out as level, and I had to figure out the vertical or level, which was pan and which was tilt. So I actually got them in reverse, and I had to readjust them. But you can see here it says pan channel is number 1, and they told us pan channel is number 1. So I applied level to the number 1 channel here. Then I come down to tilt channel, that's number 3, and that would be this here. Again, I disregarded. I guess I could kind of gray these out because I really did. I just ignored these. I really did. I just ignored them because I felt like I've never used them. I personally probably wouldn't use them in sequencing. And what if other models don't have that? I mean, it really is fine tuning if I'm trying to get to a specific point. These are up on the house. Fine tuning it doesn't make much sense. So now the speed, I don't believe speed was in here. I kind of disregarded that one as well. We had the number 6, we had the dimming and the shutter, which I believe I had set to the shutter channel, which was number 6. So I took care of that one. Strobe, I believe I just kind of disregard that as well. And then I did come in here because it did give me the option of a red, green, and blue channel. I did put them in here. So 8, 9, and 10, those were all considered a color. So 8, 9, and 10, I just put them in there, 8, 9, and 10. And then 11, of course, was my white channel. So I have an RGB and W channel that I can work out of here. Now, this is where I think somewhere in here that Scott has added some additional functionality. Hopefully he will share that with us tonight. After I get through this. And so once I did that, there was one other thing that I learned that I had to do is I had to give each of these models, each of these individual lines, I had to give the strand an individual name. Now to do this, I just went down here to strand node names, and because we gave this 11 channels, I was able to come in and I was able to physically type these in. Now I just wrote the pan fine and I wrote the tilt fine in here. I physically came in and just wrote the name of it beside it. Now why this is important is when we go back over to the sequencing screen, I'll see these exact names, and this will make it much easier for me whenever I go to map my sequences from my downloaded layout into this physical layout. So with that being said, all I did was I walked through this and I basically copied all of the important information or the pertinent information from this setup sheet over to this, and I clicked OK and I saved it. And then I started playing with it. And that's whenever I found, oh, I've got this backwards, or I found out that whenever I tried to output the lights that things didn't work because I didn't have the shutter open. So, life's a dance. You kind of learn as you go. Now, typically, I would set up a controller in here, let's say like a Falcon, an F16 V3 or an F48. But I actually used something, somewhat of an older technology. It's called a E131 bridge. And if any of you have been in the hobby for a number of years, this little bridge is, let's see if I can dig it out without much problem here. That's not the right one.
All we see is your computer screen.
Yep, I know. I'm getting the camera. Remember, I have to get the camera ready, and I have to get this little thing ready. So, you can't see you can't see the camera?
Not yet.
Okay, well, I will stop sharing, and we'll see if I can pin this to the main. Oh, there we go. Can you see me now?
Yes.
Okay, so what this is this is something, it's older technology, but it works just like a Falcon would. This is what's called from DIY's LED Express. There was a fellow who created a bridge, and what this bridge did was it allowed you to have up to 6 universes you could output from it, and what these universes could run was one standalone DMX decoder that ran off of DMX. So what this did was this converted E131 into 131 or DMX protocol, and you could have 6 universes of pixels with a standard DMX controller, and they were cheap. They were like $10-15 or $20 or $25 for one universe. And so this we're talking about using this in 2012, 2011, before a Falcon was ever created. So this is older technology, but the difference is all it's doing is it's outputting DMX for me. That's what it's doing. So with that being said, this is just like running DMX outside of your Falcon, or running DMX off of a cult board, or any of the newer controllers now today. So I'm just using an older board that really doesn't get much use other than exactly what we're using for right now. So, and it's relatively easy to set this up too. So with that in mind, let me go ahead and reshare this screen as soon as I can find Zoom. Okay, so what I did was I created an Ethernet protocol, or an Ethernet, excuse me, I added a Ethernet, and I gave it an IP address of 192.168.1.12. That's the IP address for the DMX bridge. I set it to run, obviously it's not running in multicast, it's running in unicast, and it has a universe count of 1. I'm using universe number 1. Now you can see with the green faux LED at the bottom of the screen that it is connected, and if I double click on it, you'll see where are you at? There it is. And a rather antiquated setup screen, but it does the job. Basically, I have set up a universe number on it. It has an IP address. It's set to static. It is in unicast mode, and it's receiving data from the computer that we're working off of right now. And I have DMX protocol set for output, for the first output, and universe 1 set for that protocol as well. So I've gone through kind of the necessary steps to pretend that, let's say, this is a Falcon or any other regular pixel controller that you would be running DMX out of. I'm doing the same thing. That's just a little bit different than what you might be used to. But with that in mind, what I did was I started the universe. The start channel is going to be obviously number 1. And what I did was I started the channels at with the first one was the Magical Light Shows moving head number 1. And I gave it a start channel of 1. Now, the Magical Light Shows has, I believe, a different number of channels. I believe it's 16. So yeah, it has 16. It has 16 different channels, and there's a couple different rules that you use whenever you sequence on these, kind of not rules, but different things that you have to do in order to make it work. So keep that in mind. Every mileage varies between different models, and that's one of the things that you tend to learn whenever you're doing this. So now that you have an idea that these models are set up, this model is the first one in line. I model chained this moving head to the first one, and this one again is only 11 channels, so this is channel 1 through 16. This had to be set to channel 17, and then after this one I had to chain this model here, right here, to the end of this model right here. So therefore you can see here are our start channels, and these are the DMX start channels that they have to be assigned. So the Magical Light Show's moving head need to be channel 1. Moving head number 1, the mini one on my left here, needs to be set to 17. And then I had to come to this mini one here and set this to 28. You wouldn't believe, as long as I've been doing this, how simple of a mistake it was for me to put channel 16 on the end of this, or 17, and they were doing the same thing and I couldn't understand why. So it's easy to make mistakes. Just double check your channels when you're lining them up, because that's rather important. So now the idea is, now here it's going to get noisy. Well, it might get noisy. I have my headphones on for a reason, and I have the microphone up close to me, because when I turn on this moving head over here, actually all of them have a fan, because they heat up. They get hot, and this one's really loud over here, so that's why the audio is set up the way it is tonight. And you'll see them. There we go. Okay, so you should be able to see here behind me. Let me stop sharing for a second. So here behind me, you should be able to see that the moving heads have kind of gone through, like the Magical Light Show went through a little bit of a kind of a startup or a setup. The little ones do that as well. I mean, if you turn those off, the little one there, whoop, let me turn this one off here. You'll see it kind of orientates itself. It kind of gets itself ready, and that's something normal that they do. So you want to make sure that if you have these moving heads and you're running these in your show, that they're on and they're ready to be kind of calibrated, or they're calibrated and ready to go. The other thing that you have to know is, before you put these moving heads out in your display, you have to know what position is the home position. Now, you're going to see them in there backwards. I'm actually looking at the back side of them. So this is the back side. So the front of my house is that black curtain that's behind me. That's the front of my house, and that's where the beams are going to point, because I don't want them pointing at you, getting all in your face and stuff. They get kind of crazy. But the idea is that I have them facing in the home position the correct way. And when I say home position, I'm not talking about xLights home position. I'm talking about whenever you give power to them, they've gone through their normal setup mode. When you hit the play button, the output should be towards the viewer. So you're looking at the back end. That's the front end behind me, okay? So you have to realize that the way you set them up, even though they're two different moving heads, and they kind of look like they're facing all the same way. They're kind of facing down into to my right, your left probably. You can see they're all kind of facing that way. That may not be the case, but whenever you start putting one beside another and you have different ones, keep that in mind, that they may not look the same when they're in their resting place or their preset locations, that they actually might be in different locations. But as long as they all move the same way and move at the same time, then you'll be rather happy with the results, I think. So, and that's what we're here for, is to get the results. Let me go back and share screen. And we're back in xLights. So right now we are connected to DMX. We're connected to, we've output to lights. I have gone through the proper setup of the Ethernet output. So if you're not aware of this, it's rather easy to set up your output to lights from for xLights. You just go into your Ethernet protocols, give yourself your computer an IP address under TCP/IP version 4, and add the subnet mask, and that's pretty much all I needed to do to make sure that xLights could, in fact, communicate. Now, I should have showed that a little earlier, but I'm a little late to the party with that one. So, with that being said, this is the result of me being able to do the moving heads in xLights and be able to output to the lights. So, first thing is we're going to start with a magical light show head. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the DMX effect onto here. And this is the default DMX effect. Now, remember earlier whenever I said that we gave these individual channels certain names? This is why it's important to go in and name those channels, because when you put the effect down in xLights, now you can see exactly which channel does what. And each of these channels, if you don't label them the right way and you map them, then the mapping will get kind of screwy or goofy. And so what I want to do is I want to share with you probably the first thing. Now, I'm not sure about, and maybe David can chime in here and answer the question for me. I'm not sure if you need a special on command for the lamp, but for the magical light shows, you certainly do need it. And in order to physically turn the lamp on, you have to set your lamp number, the DMX adjuster, to 255. And not only do you have to send it that command, it usually takes anywhere from, depending on the application, if you have a number of these hooked up, it could take 50 or 40 seconds for it to turn on. And then at the end of your performance, you probably want to turn these off because these lamps run nonstop. So and those bulbs have a life on them. So you do have to change the bulbs if they burn out. So we're just waiting, and it looks like it came on. And what I'll do is, just to see that it turned on, I'm going to turn on the shutter. I have to open the shutter, and then I can turn on the dimmer. And it should be working very well for me right now. So let me stop sharing, and you all can see that this is why it's going to be kind of frustrating, because if you're live on Facebook, the Zoom does some great stuff. So but if you're not live on Facebook, it's going to be a little bit hard for me to do both, to show the camera and to show these at the same time. So that's getting the magical light show moving head to turn on, just to do something. I'm going to go back and share screen, and we're going to turn that bulb off because we don't need it on. We're just turning off the dimmer. You can turn off the dimmer or the shutter. The shutter would shut it off too, but the dimmer has it. I just always leave the shutter on for everything. So now what happens if I copy and paste this same effect from one DMX fixture to another? Well, keep in mind that, and I'm going to stop outputting from lights, but keep in mind that now that we have these mini LEDs moving heads kind of set up behind me, that the channels have all changed. They're completely different, because if you remember, we had from the magical light shows that the shutter was on this second channel here. Well, now we copy and pasted it, and we realized, oh geez, there's this fine pan here, which obviously I didn't hook up, but that's not where it's supposed to be. We need that shutter to be on, or we want that dimmer to be on. And if you copy and pasted it, you need to be able to map this from this head to this head, because this channel assignment is going to be different. So this is kind of the hard part, or the challenge to understanding how to create a map from one layout to another. But it's important that we kind of walk through this. So what I'll do next is I'll turn this off. I'll turn off the fine pan. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn my shutter on, which was what the fine pan did before. and we're going to turn on the dimmer, and hopefully, oh wait, I got to turn out, I'll put the lights, there we go. And now I'm going to turn the dimmer on, and here I'll move my, you guys can't see this I don't think, but if you see my camera, we'll turn up the light, and it does look like it's working on the second one there. So if I look over there and I put my hand up, maybe you can see it, it's on. Let me stop sharing screen. And now you should be able to see it. So right there you can see that the light is on. All I did was turn on the light, but I had to turn on that shutter because I learned from my experience from the Magical Light Show moving head. So there's some similarities between the two. They have the same kind of functionalities, but it's a little different between models, which one has what channel. So this is why this is why mapping is probably going to be for people, going to be probably the most confusing thing for people. So just take this next part really, really nice and easy. I really wish I could have kind of camera and full screen, but those of you on Facebook are getting the full kind of full tilt. Let's go back to screen number 1 here, and so I can show you how, like for example, house preview. We don't need to see the model preview. Reset. There we go. So we know that we can copy and paste from this one to this one here, and this should work. And I can look over here and see that I had turned it off, so I'm returning it back on. So now they should both be on. Yeah, they're both on right now. So let me put my camera over here, and the screen capture will kind of there we go. That kind of helps. I don't know that. There we go. This will really help. I don't know if you can see this or not, but if we want the heads to move, the two channels that we're going to play with, and I'll show it on the Magical Light Show moving head. The two channels that we're most likely going to work with are going to be the pan and the tilt. So if we take our tilt and this is going to tilt it up and down, you can see behind me that the head moves in a tilt position. And if you're wondering how you get some of those real smooth movements, what you do is you go into the value curves in xLights and you utilize the value curves for these. So what it's doing right now is it's just waving back and forth. Now I can turn the lamp on. I can turn the dimmer on, and you can see the dimmer going back and forth, and just you can see the light going. Now it's important to know this. Some of these lamps, if you leave the lamp turned on and you have it fixed in one position for too long and it's against something that can catch on fire, like wood or paper or something, this beam will heat that up hot enough that it can possibly catch on fire. So if you have the moving head on, don't have it pointing at one specific location for too long. Maybe if you're outside, it's not such a big deal, but inside, when you're testing, that's definitely something important that Tom shared with me a couple years ago. He said, don't let it sit in idle position. So that's movement number 1, and I'll dim that down. It doesn't need to be that super bright. And the next position that you're probably going to play with the most is going to be your pan. which is at the bottom here. This is channel number 10, and this is where you can get those nice smooth movements of rotating. And there is, in this instance, I believe 540 degrees that it can turn. And so something we can do here is, again, we can put the same kind of a value curve on here where it's going to just zip around and it can do all kinds of neat stuff. So this is kind of the basics to getting it started to sequencing. Now, you use this on the DMX effect. And that is ridiculously fast because it's going right behind me there. Let's stop outputting the lights for a second. And let's extend this out a little bit because that's a lot of movement for them. There we go. So that gives you kind of an idea of what it looks like whenever they're moving and going. Now, again, if we copy and paste this, and I'm going to turn the lamp off of here in a second. If I copy and paste this up to, let's say, the first moving head, this little guy right over here. So now we can see that this one's not doing anything at all. In fact, it's kind of really confused. I'm going to stop this one over here. What we need to do is we need to figure out the important channels that we used on one and map them to the other. And then what we'll do is we'll create a map, and I'll show you how to map them. So we have to know, hey, we've got pan, excuse me, on here we had stop outputting the lights. Let's put that effect back on there. And we can look and see we had shutter open completely. The shutter was on, and this is where I'm going to bring in the Excel sheet. The shutter was on channel number 1 through 10. This is number 2. I'm going to put the shutter over here. This was the shutter. This is channel number 2. Put that there. And channel number 3 was dimmer. So that would be our white color. We learned that the white was the color that we were going to put the dimmer on. So that's number 3. The next tab here, over, bring back the channel map here. We had tilt on channel number 11 through 20. This is B11. This is 12. So we'll say tilt is on 12. And then we have the lamp, which we have turned on. And we don't need this on command. This was that original on command. We don't need that for these LEDs. Whenever it tells it to turn it on, it just turns it on. The important thing is we have the vertical tilt, or the tilt, the pan, and well, the pan was down here. This was number 10. We'll put that here, channel number 10. So these are the 4 channels that this effect absolutely needs. And again, we try to keep it basic here. Those are the 4 channels that we absolutely need for us to go in and switch between these 2 models, since these 2 models aren't the same. So to do this, we first have to select the DMX effect from the one that we're mapping to. And we come down here, and there is a bulk edit. I don't need to do it, but it's important to know that you can bulk edit. You can select model, and you can do this for all of the effects in that line, or you can select multiple ones. In fact, we'll select multiple ones, and we will copy model, select effects, and then down here, model, select effects. And that highlights these 2 entire lines. Even through the whole sequencing, it'll grab everything in there. And so what you can do now is you can bulk map from here into these. So to do that, we'll right-click, bulk map, and we're going to create a map from the we're mapping from the Magical Light shows. So here we are with our little map here. We need channel 10 to be channel 1. So channel 10 needs to be, and I'm clicking 3 times, channel 1, and selecting channel 1. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to do the tilt as 12, and that goes on to the number 3. So here's on to channel number channel number 12 is going to now be channel number 3. Then we're going to turn on, or have the shutter turn on. That was on channel 2, but we're going to move that over to channel number 6. And then the last one is the dimmer, which was channel 11, was channel number 3. So if we go back to channel 11, we'll go to number 3. So basically we're saying take what was here, applied to this one, and reapply it to these so it makes sense to this different head. We're moving the effects. That's basically what we're doing. We'll click OK. And now you notice, I think I got something wrong with my map. I had turned on the blue. Ha. Oh well, that's okay. That's an easy fix. And if we output the lights, you'll see it's kind of working. Although the blue channel's not assigned. I didn't assign the blue channel. If I go ahead and remap this, let's remap this. Actually, let's just start over. Let's get one of them right. Copy this, and we'll paste it. We'll take this off. Paste. Okay. So we'll start again. So I'm mapping from channel 1 to channel 10. From channel 10, I'm going to map that to channel 1. So this should be channel 10. Channel 10 now should be on channel 1, which would be our level. So this should move over there. So let's go ahead and click it. And there is our level. Let's see. Channel 10 went to I'm sorry, did I say 1? I meant 2. Channel number 3 here, channel number 3, the dimmer, is going to move over to channel number 11 on this one. So we're going to remap this. From channel number 3. We'll click OK. So there's one of them. That should turn on the dimmer. That should have turned that on. Huh.
I think you're getting those a little backwards, Clyde. Sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
The left side of the map should be your source, and the right map would be the destination. So if you go back to your channel map.
Here, we'll go ahead and we'll just start right over. Had no problem with this earlier. So I'm mapping from, on the left-hand side here, I'm mapping from what was there. I'm mapping over from...
Correct. So on the number 10 line, example, if it's 10 on the magical lights, then on the right-hand side here is where you'll set that to the channel, whatever the other channel was. I don't have your spreadsheet in front of me.
Correct. So, yes.
So you were doing these kind of backwards. Sorry. So then your line 10 would be channel 1 on the right.
Right, which what I thought we just did that, so I could be wrong. Maybe we need to do all 4 of them at the same time.
And then your line 12.
That would be this one.
Yep. So line number 12. line number 12. Nope, not up there. Down on line number 12, because you're coming from channel 12 to channel 3.
Right.
So the right-hand side would be channel 3.
Doggone it. So you have 12 and you have 3. So that, no wait, 1 is your level. That goes to 10. 11 is your dimming. That should be 3.
So you're doing, on the right-hand side, that's your channel map from, because the right-hand side is your big head. So the 10, 12, 2, and 3 is your map from. And then your...
Gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah,
I
I have it backwards. I'm thinking that this is what I'm at. So, if I have 10, so I'm on 10, we put that on 1. If I'm on 12, that should be on 3. If I'm on 6, that should be on 2.
No, negative. 2 becomes 6. 2 becomes 6. From 2
to
to
6.
6.
I should have used my other spreadsheet.
And then
and
from
3
to 11.
to 11. And you have to click 3 times on that. That's kind of odd, but that's okay. That's the old way we used to map. So now that should switch it over, and they all should kind of be doing the same thing. Got the pan. Oh, and one thing it won't do is it won't erase what was there if you don't tell it to. In any event, if we were outputting to lights right now, let me do that real quick. If we were outputting to lights, you should see that they are doing the exact same thing. Kind of hard to see over my shoulder. How about I copy and paste it to the other one? Thanks, Ron.
Oh, you're most welcome.
How about I stop outputting the lights and I paste it. Now we output the lights. So those are bright. So it's the same effect, and we're all, in essence, what we're doing is we're mapping from one to another. What I think I want to do is I want to do a physical mapping using a map that we've already created that will kind of make the whole thing a little bit easier, because once you create the map, it's a matter of just running the map. So, for instance, if I create a new sequence, there is one more thing. Let's go through one more thing. Some of these models, even the Dominars will have these as well. There are groups and submodels that are attached to some of these. So the important one, the Magical Light shows, I created a bunch of them. To me, the most important one was the dimmer. So what I did was, if you take the dimmer and you create a group, well, I'll do a group with all of them. So add. Create group, MH dimmers. It's not necessary to have the group. It just kind of makes it easier to see it, where I can just turn on the lamps if I want them turned on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new sequence, musical sequence. Let's pick out something that we did. Music. I gotta go look for it for a second. Music. Okay, so I'll go ahead with 40 frames per second. That gives it, I don't know, a little bit more zest, I guess. And we'll quick start it. So this is Christmas Baby, Please Come Home from Darlene Love. If this happens to be the monthly sequence, and I've already got the moving heads ready for this. So once you have this, keep in mind that if you have a group of dimmers, you probably best to put the dimmers below physically in the display elements. It's better to put the dimmers, the group down below. That way your order of rendering, if you happen to sequence on the group level, will overtake what's above it. So in the YouTube, we're probably going to dub out the sound, but the important thing is that you can see whenever you bring them in how easily it will bring in, because it does make a difference. It does kind of help. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll click the import button. I'm going to navigate to my downloads, and as if you downloaded this, you click on the zipped folder, and once you click on it, you have your standard mapping screen. And on the mapping screen, you have moving head 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if you have 6 moving heads, obviously you'd map 1 through 6. If you have 4, maybe you'd map the first 2 and the last 2 together. If you have 5, maybe you'd map 1, 2, and 4, 5 together, and then you'd play with 3 and 4, and you'd figure out which one looks better. You know, there's a bunch of different ways to think about it. Just you might have to be creative, because you are getting a sequence that may not. It'll have programming, but if you map it a certain way, then you might. It might have different groups because you have less of them or more of them. So just be aware of that. The other thing is, for now I'm just going to map one moving head to all 3 of them, so they're all the same. So moving head 1, moving head 1, moving head 1. So they're all getting moving head 1. If we come down here, we extend all of these, you can see that our individual submodels are here, and you can see that we have some intensity, which just for game's sake, intensity also means dimming, and this is sequencing for your dimmers. So if you go to your moving head dimmers and you physically place this on the submodel, you're not placing it on the moving head model, you're placing it physically on the submodel. So this doesn't need remapped. These dimmers, these intensities that you pull over, those don't need remapped. So don't get confused. The only thing that we're going to map, we map those 3 things over from here and put them on the submodels. But once we get inside here, we know the problem with the music, or with the models. The problem between these models is these top 2 are different than the bottom 2. So we have the moving head 1 in this instance it has the Magical Light shows is on the top here, and the 2 mini moving heads are over here. They all have the same programming. It's all from moving head 1 is what was mapped. And the reason this is important is that you see that even though these are different heads, even though on screen you can see that their setup is slightly different. This head is tilted one way, and these heads are tilted another way. Just the visual look in xLights is going to look different. Even though you map it in, the look may not be exactly the same as what was in the download. So don't worry about that. What matters is the real-world test that you're going to do when you have them physically sitting out and you can connect DMX to them. So this is what's important. So getting the map right from the start is definitely an important thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to import the map that I've already done. And I have, let's see, the Magical Light shows this is the moving head number 1. This is this one over here. I'm going to click on the line. I'm going to right-click and go to Model and select All Effects. And what that's done, if I scroll out here, you can see all of the purple lines here that are from left to right. You can see that all of those are selected now. And we're going to map only these. So what we're going to do is we're right-click. We're going to bulk edit. And I'm going to load a map. Now, we created a map, and you can save a map. I've already done the mapping for this. So what I'll do is I'll go to Desktops, and then I'll go into xLights, and I'm going to go to where I have my map saved, which is right here, where it was there. Moving head test. Is that it? Nope, it's another one. Nope, it's not there. Where did it go? We had Tom. I thought it was there. Hang on just a second. Ah, there we go. So it's in my moving head layout folder. Okay, so if I'm mapping from the PPD layout, I have a map that goes into the Magical Light shows. This one's going to be included with all of the downloads, and because I think that the most common one that most people will have is the Magical Light show head. So when we select this map, what this automatically does is this automatically does the mapping for me, like channel number 1 from the one that was in the PPD layout versus yours that's in yours. This is how you would set it up, as Ron was walking through earlier. And these are already done. So I know this map works. I've already taken the time to go step by step to get those worked out. And all I have to do now is click OK. And what xLights just did was it took everything and reapplied it to each individual effect. So in this instance, let's find something that has something on it. So in this instance, this is the dimmer's on, and then it fades out. You have a panning motion. In this instance here, you have a tilt motion. So those all working together. Now, the goal is that we have the exact same thing, whether it's correct on the screen or not. The exact same output is what we're looking for between all of these models. So in order to do this, again, we're going to start back over with the mapping process for these different moving heads. And what we'll do is we'll right-click on the row, we'll go to Model, and we'll select Effects. And then we'll come down here again, we'll right-click, we'll hit Model, and select Effects again. And then, since we've already got a DMX effect selected here, we're going to remap the channels, right-click, Bulk Edit. And now we're going to load the mapping that we used, or that I created earlier, from the original import, which was from the Dominar to the mini LED moving heads that I've got here to my right. So I'll select that map. That's already there. I'll go ahead and click OK. And then I'm going to hit Save, because we just mapped everything. Now, the goal would be is if we click on this effect here, they have the same appearance. They're moving in the same kind of quadrant direction, so to speak, right? But they don't look the same. So if we rendered this sequence and I go ahead and play it, just watch the on-screen. I'm not outputting to lights yet. Because of the way the initial head is set for the Magical Light shows, it doesn't appear like these other two, because some specific setting was set on this head to look a certain way. It could have something to do with the degree of rotation. I think it could be that could be a setting. I don't want to really mess with it, but just keep in mind that just because your instance may be that it doesn't look correct on the screen, when you output it to lights, as you're about to see, and I'll make this much bigger. Hopefully I can make it bigger. I'll go ahead and that's as big as I can make it. Okay, so there I've shut off the light. It's just the moving heads, me, and hopefully you'll be able to see it all. And it should work just fine. Hopefully it should work just fine. We're live, so everything's going to happen, right? Let's go ahead. We already rendered light bulb. They moved the light bulb on us. We've already rendered it. And let's see, there's something pop. So you can see I'm moving, and I don't think I'm sharing with sound, by the way. Maybe I better reshare with sound. Participants, new share, share with sound, share with sound. There we go. So you should be able to hear it now. Now you'll notice you can hear the sound, but you probably don't see any lights coming on. And that's because of another mistake that I made, which was the shutter. The shutter is not turned on any of these effects. So again, we're going to go back and we're going to look at our individual channels, and we're going to turn the shutter on all the effects, and we're going to do it all at once, but we're going to have to do it separately because the Magical Light Show head is just a little bit different. So we'll go to the model, and we'll go to select effects, and we've selected an effect over here. Hopefully that's the right one. Yeah, there we go. Let's stop output the lights real quick. Model, select effects. And then over here we're going to turn the shutter to 255. Bulk edit, right click bulk edit, and click OK. Now, because the shutter's on a different channel with these, I'm going to select one of those effects. Now I'm going to model, right click model, select effects, right click model, select effects. And that has all of these mini LEDs over here, and I'll turn those on. So my shutter is down here, and that's why we have to do them separately, because they're two different models. The channel is different for each of these. And that should do it. That should do it. Oh. It looks like it's going to work. So let's cross our fingers here. Light bulb on. And the goal again . So, I just realized that I did that demo and I didn't have the camera up. Where are you at? There we go. Let's try that share again.
You can't hear the music.
Can you not hear? You couldn't hear the music at all?
No.
I was sharing with sound. New share. Share with sound. I am sorry, I do not know exactly.
We picked it up real lightly through your microphone, perhaps.
No, you couldn't, because it was in my earphones. I have my earphones on.
We heard it just real faint here.
Okay, well, I could, yeah, you gotta love Zoom. Okay, so Zoom has issues with sharing sound. I have to blast it in order for you to hear it. So I'll probably take off my headphones. Where is the camera? And I don't know why. Rob, did you deactivate camera? Because I don't seem to have the screen up.